Hello. Life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. I wasn't looking for love when I met Olivia, but from the moment she walked into my life, everything changed. It was at a friend's wedding, of all places. I had almost skipped it. Work had been keeping me busy, and the idea of making small talk with distant acquaintances didn't exactly thrill me. But as soon as I arrived, I spotted her across the room, laughing at something her friend had said. There was something about her, an effortless grace, a kind of warmth that drew people in. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and within minutes, we were talking like we had known each other for years. Olivia had this way of making everything feel lighter, as if the world was just a little more fun when she was around. She was sharp-witted, confident, and had a smile that made it impossible to look away. That night, we danced. I've never been much of a dancer, but with her, it felt easy, natural. By the end of the evening, I knew I wanted to see her again. One date led to another, and before I knew it, we were inseparable. Falling in love with Olivia was effortless. It was the kind of love that didn't need second-guessing, it just was. She brought excitement into my life, always finding ways to turn the ordinary into something special. Even something as simple as grocery shopping became an adventure with her. A few years later, I proposed during a weekend getaway in the mountains. Just the two of us, standing under a sky full of stars. She said yes before I even finished asking. Our life together was everything I had hoped for. And for the longest time, I thought it always would be. Marriage, for me, was never about grand gestures or dramatic love stories. It was about the quiet, everyday moments that added up to something bigger than both of us. That's exactly how life with Olivia felt, like we were building something solid, piece by piece, day by day. After our wedding, we settled into a comfortable rhythm. I had my construction company, which had grown steadily over the years, and Olivia had her career in marketing. She had a way with people, an effortless charm that made her excellent at what she did. She loved her job, and I loved watching her thrive in it. We bought our first house together a couple of years into our marriage, a beautiful home with a spacious backyard, perfect for summer barbecues and quiet evenings on the porch. Olivia was the heart of our home, filling it with warmth and laughter. She had an eye for design and spent weeks making sure every room felt like us. Weekends were our time. If we weren't hosting friends for dinner, we were taking spontaneous road trips, trying new restaurants, or just enjoying lazy mornings with coffee in bed. Olivia was always the one with the plans, the ideas, the little surprises that kept life exciting. I, on the other hand, found joy in the routine of it all, coming home after work to see her curled up on the couch with a book, cooking dinner together, sharing inside jokes that only we understood. We had our share of dreams for the future. Travel was a big one. We wanted to see Italy, explore Japan, maybe even buy a little cabin by a lake one day. Kids were something we talked about but never rushed into. We had time. Or at least, we thought we did. Looking back, those years felt simple, easy, like we were exactly where we were meant to be. I never once doubted the life we were creating together. Life with Olivia had settled into a steady, comfortable rhythm. We had been married for 6 years now, and while the early excitement of dating had mellowed, it had been replaced by something even better: stability, trust, and a deep sense of partnership. I had grown my construction company into a thriving business, and Olivia had recently been promoted at her marketing firm. We both had demanding careers, but we made time for each other. Even on busy days, we had little routines that kept us connected: morning coffee together before work, quick texts throughout the day, and always making sure to eat dinner at the same table, no matter how late it got. Our home was our sanctuary. Olivia loved decorating and had a talent for making every space feel warm and inviting. She filled our house with things that reflected our story: photos from our travels, small trinkets from weekend getaways, and books stacked in nearly every corner. The backyard had become our favorite place to unwind, whether it was hosting friends for a barbecue or just sitting under the string lights she had insisted on hanging, talking about anything and everything. Socially, we had a solid circle. We often spent weekends with friends or visiting my parents. My younger brother still lived with them, trying to figure out his next steps in life. Olivia got along well with my family, especially my father, who had always been a guiding figure in my life. She had a way of making everyone feel comfortable around her, and my father had taken a liking to her from the start. It made me happy to see the two of them get along so well. If you had asked me then, I would have told you I was happy. Sure, the honeymoon phase had faded, and work sometimes left us too exhausted for grand romantic gestures. But that was normal, right? We had built a solid foundation, a life we were both proud of, a future we were excited for. And I never imagined, not for a second, that any of it could fall apart. Looking back, I wonder how I didn't see it sooner. How I convinced myself that everything was just as it had always been. But the thing about betrayal is that it doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in, slow and silent, until suddenly, the life you thought you had isn't real anymore. It started with little things. Subtle shifts in Olivia's behavior that, at first, I brushed off as nothing. She started spending more time at my parents' house, dropping by when I wasn't around. It wasn't unusual. She and my dad had always gotten along, but lately, it felt excessive. She'd casually mention stopping by to help with something or just chat, but when I'd ask about it later, her answers were vague. At home, she seemed distracted, distant. We still had our routines, but something was missing. I'd catch her staring at her phone more often, smiling at messages she never shared. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd say it was a coworker or one of her girlfriends. And maybe it was. But something in the way she said it made my stomach twist. Then there were the late nights. Olivia had never been one to work overtime. But suddenly, she had meetings that ran late, projects that required extra hours at the office. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the doubt had started creeping in, and no matter how much I tried to push it down, it wouldn't go away. One night, I casually suggested picking her up from work since I was finishing a project nearby. Her response was immediate, too immediate. No, it's fine. I don't even know what time I'll be done. She laughed, but there was an edge to it. That was the first time I felt something was really wrong. Then, there was my brother. One evening, when I stopped by my parents' house, he gave me a strange look. Olivia was here earlier, he mentioned casually, but then hesitated. With Dad. His voice held something else, something I couldn't quite place. A feeling settled in my gut, heavy and cold. I told myself I was overthinking, that I was just being paranoid. But deep down, I already knew. Something was happening, and I was going to find out what. At first, I told myself it was nothing. A rough patch. Every couple has them, right? Work stress, routine, life. It all gets in the way sometimes. But the more I tried to convince myself, the harder it became to ignore the sinking feeling in my gut. Olivia had changed. Not in any dramatic way. Nothing I could point to and say this is it. This is proof. But in small, almost imperceptible shifts that added up to something undeniable. She was more distant, more secretive, and, above all, less present. Our conversations had become shallow. Where we once talked for hours, now our exchanges were short and to the point. I'd ask her how her day was, and she'd reply with a simple busy, before moving on to something else. The warmth that had always been there, the spark, the effortless closeness, it was gone. She stopped initiating anything with me. No more date nights, no more spontaneous affection. And when I reached for her, whether it was a kiss, a touch, or just sitting close to her on the couch, I felt her pull away. Not physically, she didn't flinch or push me back, but emotionally. She wasn't there with me anymore. And then there were the unexplained absences. Olivia had always been predictable with her schedule, but suddenly, things were different. She had errands that took longer than usual. Last-minute plans with friends I'd never heard of. She started dressing up more often, putting in effort even on the days she claimed she was just running out for a quick coffee or a meeting at work. One evening, I decided to test something. She had told me she was staying late at the office again, working on a project deadline. But something inside me told me to check. I drove to her workplace, my hands gripping the wheel tightly, my mind already racing with possibilities I didn't want to believe. Her car wasn't there. I sat in my truck for a long moment, staring at the empty space where her car should have been. My heart pounded in my chest, and for the first time, I felt something deeper than doubt. I felt fear. Where was she? When she got home that night, I tried to act normal. I asked her how work was, and she sighed dramatically, rubbing her temples. Exhausting, she said, dropping her purse onto the kitchen counter. I barely made it through today. I watched her carefully. Yeah? Who was in the office with you? She didn't even hesitate. Oh, just my usual team. Sarah, Michelle, you know, the whole crew. A cold chill ran down my spine. I knew for a fact she hadn't been there. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but I didn't. Not yet. Because something told me that if I pushed too soon, she'd find a way to cover her tracks. And if I was going to figure out what was really happening, I needed to be sure. So I waited. I watched. I started paying attention in a way I never had before. And slowly, the pieces began to fall into place. Doubt is a funny thing. It starts as a whisper in the back of your mind, easy to ignore. But the more you try to push it down, the louder it gets. Until one day, it's all you can hear. That's what it felt like with Olivia. I wanted to believe she was just stressed from work. I wanted to believe that I was overthinking things. But no matter how much I tried to convince myself, the feeling wouldn't go away. Something wasn't right. I just didn't know what. She was more distant than ever. She started avoiding eye contact when she spoke to me, as if afraid that if she looked too closely, I'd see something I wasn't supposed to. When I asked about her day, her answers were vague. I caught her texting late at night, quickly locking her phone whenever I walked into the room. And then there were the absences. She always had an excuse. Drinks with friends, work meetings, errands that took longer than expected. I started noticing how she would leave the house wearing perfume when she never used to for casual outings. How she spent more time getting ready, choosing outfits more carefully. One night, I asked casually, "Want me to drop you off? I've got some time before my next meeting." She shook her head a little too quickly. "No, it's fine. I might leave early anyway." That nagging feeling in my gut tightened. I decided to follow her. It wasn't something I was proud of, but I needed to know if I was imagining things or if there was really something going on. I waited a few minutes after she left, then grabbed my keys and took a different route to avoid suspicion. I expected her to drive to a bar, a restaurant, maybe even a hotel. But instead, she ended up at a quiet residential street. Not a coworker's house. Not one of her friends. She pulled up, parked, and got out without hesitation. She didn't check her phone. She didn't hesitate. She knew where she was going. I parked a little farther down the street and watched as she walked up to the front door. It opened almost immediately. I squinted, trying to make out who had answered. But I was too far away. The porch light was dim, and whoever it was, they stayed mostly in the shadows. All I could see was that it was a man. A wave of nausea hit me. I sat there for over an hour, gripping the steering wheel, my mind spinning with possibilities. Was it someone from work? An old boyfriend? Some guy she met online? When she finally left, she looked different. Her hair was slightly out of place. She had a glow to her, like she had just had the best night of her life. She didn't even check her phone as she got into her car and drove off. I didn't follow her home. I couldn't. Instead, I sat there in the dark, staring at the house, trying to figure out who the hell she was seeing. Trying to figure out why the hell my wife was lying to me. The following days passed in a blur. I was living in a constant state of unease, my mind replaying that night over and over. Olivia had lied to me. That much was obvious. But I still didn't know who she was sneaking off to see. And that drove me insane. I debated confronting her, but I had nothing solid. Just suspicions. And if I came at her now, she'd deny everything. I needed more. I needed proof. Meanwhile, Olivia acted as if nothing had changed. She still kissed me on the cheek in the mornings, still asked about my day, still curled up next to me on the couch at night. But I saw through it now. Every touch felt rehearsed. Every word calculated. Then, everything changed. It started with a phone call from my younger brother, Ryan. He still lived with our parents while figuring out his next steps in life. We were close, but he wasn't the type to call out of the blue. So when his name flashed across my screen, I knew something was off. "Hey," I answered. "Everything okay?" There was silence on the other end. Then, a heavy breath. "I need to tell you something, but I don't know how." My stomach clenched. "Ryan, just say it." Another pause. Then, his voice dropped to a whisper. "I saw Olivia." I sat up straighter. "Where?" "Here. At Mom and Dad's." I felt a cold rush go through me. Olivia had been spending more time there lately, always with some excuse. But why would Ryan sound so shaken over that? He hesitated, then let out a shaky breath. She wasn't alone, man. I gripped the phone tighter. "What do you mean?" His voice broke for a second. "She was with someone. And it wasn't you." I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was falling, like the ground beneath me had disappeared. I pressed the phone harder against my ear. "Who?" I demanded. Ryan hesitated. "Too long." "Ryan." My voice was sharp now. "Tell me who the fuck she was with." But instead of answering, he cursed under his breath. "Look, I don't know if I should be the one. Tell me. Now." There was another pause then. "I think you need to come here." A chill crawled up my spine. "Come where?" I asked, but I already knew the answer. "To Mom and Dad's," Ryan said, his voice barely above a whisper. And just like that, I knew. I didn't know the details. I didn't know the how or the why. But in that moment, Everything snapped into place. I grabbed my keys and drove like a madman, my heart hammering in my chest, my mind screaming at me to get there. Because deep down, I already knew the truth, and I was about to come face to face with it. I barely remember the drive to my parents' house. My hands were clenched so tightly around the wheel that my knuckles turned white. My pulse pounded in my ears, drowning out everything else. By the time I pulled into the driveway, my heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Ryan was standing outside, pacing, his face pale, his body tense. The second I got out of the car, I marched up to him. "Tell me," I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. "Tell me what you saw." Ryan hesitated. His hands were shaking. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here. "Man," he swallowed, rubbing a hand over his face. "I don't even know how to say this. Just say it." His eyes darted toward the house, as if he was afraid someone inside might hear. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said the words that shattered my world. "She's with Dad." I blinked. "What?" He squeezed his eyes shut like he couldn't even stand to repeat it. "I saw them," he whispered. "Together." The world tilted. I actually felt my knees go weak. I took a step back, shaking my head, refusing to believe what I had just heard. "No," I said, my voice breaking. "That's not. You must have seen wrong." Ryan looked like he wanted to throw up. I wish I did. I stared at him, waiting for him to take it back, waiting for him to say that it was some horrible misunderstanding. But he didn't. Instead, his face twisted with disgust as he continued. "I came home early," he said, his voice hollow. "Mom was out shopping. I went upstairs to grab something from my room, and I heard noises. At first, I thought it was the TV or something, but then I realized." He swallowed hard. "It was coming from Dad's bedroom." My stomach churned violently. I didn't want to believe it," Ryan went on, his voice raw. "So I looked." He let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. "I looked, man, and I saw her, Olivia, with him." His face twisted in disgust. "I can't unsee it." I bent over, bracing my hands on my knees as a wave of nausea rolled through me. My wife. With my father. In the house I grew up in. My skin felt like it was burning from the inside out. "Tell me you're lying." My voice was barely there. "I'm not." Ryan's voice cracked. "I saw them, man. And when I realized what was happening, I ran." I couldn't. He cut himself off, running a shaky hand through his hair. "I didn't know what to do. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how." I forced myself to stand upright. My entire body was trembling. My mind raced, trying to make sense of something that could never make sense. Olivia. My father. The betrayal was so deep, so all-consuming, I couldn't breathe. I thought back to all the moments that suddenly made sense. The extra time she had been spending at my parents' house. The late nights. The way she had avoided looking me in the eye. How the one person I had always looked up to, my father, had done this to me. I turned back to Ryan, my voice deadly calm. "Are they still here?" Ryan hesitated. "Dad left a little while ago." "Olivia," he exhaled. "She's still inside." I clenched my fists. I felt rage. I felt heartbreak. I felt like a man about to burn everything down. I turned toward the house, ready to face the woman I had once loved, ready to destroy her. I walked up to the house, my body rigid with rage, my fists clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. I wasn't here for an explanation. I wasn't here for an apology. I was here to end this. I threw the door open so hard it slammed against the wall. Olivia, who was sitting at the kitchen table scrolling through her phone, jumped like she'd seen a ghost. Her eyes widened. "Babe, what?" I laughed. I actually laughed. It was a sharp, bitter sound. "Babe?" She still had the audacity to play the loving wife? "Save it," I snapped, stepping forward. "I know." The color drained from her face. "No, what?" I took another step toward her, my blood boiling. "I know you've been fucking my father." The words hung in the air like a grenade, and I watched her break in real time. Her lips parted, her chest rose and fell faster. Her hands trembled as she tried to reach for me. I stepped back before she could touch me, disgust curling in my stomach. "Don't even try." Tears welled up in her eyes, and for a second, she looked like she might collapse. "Please, I can explain." I tilted my head. "Oh, this should be good. Go ahead. Explain how you ended up in bed with the man who raised me." Her mouth opened, then closed. She had nothing to say, because there was no excuse. I scoffed. That's what I thought. I turned away from her and walked straight to the front door. I pulled my key ring from my pocket and removed her key from it. Then, without hesitation, I opened the door and threw it into the bushes. Get out. My voice was cold, emotionless. Her breath hitched. Wait, what? I turned to face her, my eyes burning into hers. You heard me. Get out. She stood frozen, shaking her head. You don't mean that. Please, we can talk about this. I walked past her without another glance and headed to the garage. In a matter of minutes, I grabbed every single one of her belongings, her clothes, her shoes, her stupid designer bags, and dumped them right outside the front door. When I came back inside, she was crying. I felt nothing. I grabbed my phone, dialed a number, and lifted it to my ear. Hey, man, I said when my locksmith friend picked up. I need a favor. Now. Olivia's head snapped up. Wait, what are you doing? I met her panicked gaze. Changing the locks. A sob escaped her. You can't just kick me out. This is my home too. I smirked. No, it's not. It's mine. And you sure as hell won't be living here anymore. She lunged for me again, desperation in her eyes. Please, just listen to me. I made a mistake. I stepped away like she was diseased. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. Fucking my father is a goddamn choice. She broke down, sobbing, clutching at her chest like she was the victim here. I wasn't done. I pulled out my phone and typed up one last text message. To HR. Subject, employment termination. Effective immediately, Olivia, last name, is no longer employed with company name. Please process her final paycheck and remove all system access. I hit send. When I looked up, she was staring at me, horrified. Her voice wavered. What did you just do? I smiled. I fired you. She gasped. No. You wouldn't. Why wouldn't I? I shot back. You worked for me. And now you don't. Her face crumbled. You're destroying my life. I leaned in, my voice low and venomous. You destroyed mine first. She covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. I didn't care. I turned back toward the door. Now get the fuck out. She hesitated. Where am I supposed to go? I laughed cruelly. I don't give a shit. At that moment, the locksmith arrived. I nodded to him and stepped aside, letting him start his work. Olivia's sobs grew louder as she realized it was over. She grabbed her bags with shaking hands and stumbled out the door. I followed her outside, watching as she collapsed onto the porch steps, her whole body trembling. But I felt nothing, because she wasn't my wife anymore. She was nothing to me. And as I stood there, watching her fall apart, I made one more decision. I pulled up my contact list, found my father's name, and hit delete. He was dead to me, just like she was. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop. I already knew who it was. I ignored it at first, but after the 15th missed call, I finally picked up. What do you want, Olivia? She sobbed on the other end. Please, just talk to me. I can't. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I stared at the ceiling, completely numb. She sounded broken. Desperate. Good. You should have thought about that before you spread your legs for my father, I said coldly. She let out a shaky breath. It wasn't. I never wanted this to happen. It was a mistake. I closed my eyes, shaking my head. Stop calling it that. A mistake is something you regret the moment it happens. You did this for months. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Silence. I could hear her breathing, could hear her struggling for words. Then, finally, she whispered, I love you. I laughed. A bitter, empty laugh. No, you don't. I do, she insisted. I swear, I do. I got lost. I made the worst decision of my life, and I will never forgive myself for it. Her voice cracked. Please, let's fix this. Fix this. Like our marriage was some cracked vase that just needed a little glue. There is no fixing this, Olivia, I said. We're done. Her sobs grew heavier. I don't want to lose you. You already did. I ended the call. She texted me immediately. Olivia, please don't shut me out. Please. Just one conversation. One chance. Olivia, I'll do anything to make this right. Olivia, I can't live without you. I deleted her number. It was over. It had been over the second she touched him. But Olivia wasn't the only one trying to get in contact with me. A few hours later, another number popped up on my phone. A number I hadn't seen in days. My father. I didn't answer. Then he texted. Dad, son, we need to talk. Dad, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but please don't shut me out. Dad, let's meet. Let me explain. Explain? Explain what? That he, my own father, had betrayed me in the worst way possible? That he had watched me grow up, guided me, given me advice on marriage, and then turned around and fucked my wife? I didn't need an explanation. I needed him gone. I deleted his number too. And just like that, I had cut them both from my life. No wife. No father. But for the first time since I found out the truth, I felt free. The days that followed were eerily quiet. No more Olivia. No more fake smiles. No more pretending. For the first time in years, my life was my own again. She kept trying to reach me. New numbers, emails, even showing up at my office once, until security made sure she wouldn't try again. Her messages shifted from apologies to desperate bargaining. Olivia, please. I'll do anything. Olivia, just tell me what I can do to make you love me again. Olivia, I don't care about him. I swear. It was always you. Olivia, I'll wait as long as it takes. She could wait forever. I wasn't coming back. I'd taken everything from her home, her job, her security. And yet, it still wasn't enough to make her understand what she had destroyed. But it didn't matter anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I just didn't care. My father tried, too. More texts, more pathetic attempts to get me to hear him out. I ignored him. If he thought I'd ever sit across from him again, he was delusional. I told Ryan I was done with both of them. He understood. He supported me, even though I knew it broke him to see our family fall apart. But I couldn't pretend. I refused. In the weeks that followed, I focused on myself. I worked harder than ever, pouring my energy into my business. I hit the gym daily, pushing myself until my muscles burned, until the pain in my body drowned out the remnants of my heartache. I reconnected with friends. I went out. I lived. And little by little, I felt lighter. The betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but it hadn't. I had survived. One evening, I stood outside my house, the home I had once shared with Olivia, and realized something. It didn't feel tainted anymore. It was just mine now. My space. My future. I wasn't defined by what she did, or by what he did. I was free. And as I walked inside, shutting the door behind me, I knew this was just the beginning. Bye-bye.